Hello, my name is Sandy Pumphrey. I'm a project manager with HR Green here in Cedar Rapids. HR Green has been retained by the City of Cedar Rapids to assist with the design of a retrofit of the existing E Avenue Detention Basin on the northwest side of town. This presentation is a repeat of what was shown at a public meeting on January 18th, 2023. And is being provided here in a recorded format for reference. If you have questions or comments after this presentation, there are email addresses on the last slide, which we'd be glad to share with you. Please provide your comments via one or both of those email addresses, and somebody will address them as appropriate. So the purpose of this presentation is to give a background on the project and to outline the components of it. The first thing to note is the area of drainage that is coming to this detention basin. You can see here we're looking at the northwest side of the city of Cedar Rapids. The Cedar River is right here on the right-hand side of the image. And the yellow area shows the drainage area that is draining to that basin. As you can see, it's a fairly large area, often known as the Vinton Ditch on the northwest side of town. The whole area is fully developed, so there's very little opportunity for other places for detention in this area. The project objectives are fairly lengthy. There's a number of them. Primarily, this project was identified as a local flood mitigation project. However, it also assists with the city's flood control system. There are also water main and sanitary improvements included. We'll show some images where we highlight enhanced circulation at the ends of 29th, 30th, and 31st Streets on the south side of the basin. We also have the opportunity to provide what we call ecological uplift and water quality improvements to the basin. And then finally, this project will also help prepare for the Cherokee Trail connection around the south side of the basin. One thing to point out is that even though this is a flood mitigation project, we don't anticipate that in and of itself it will make any changes to what we call the regulatory floodplain. That's the floodplain that FEMA recognizes as the large 100-year event, or the 1% chance event. That being said, there are also parallel efforts right now by FEMA and the Iowa Department of Natural Resources to update the flood maps. We want to make it clear that those efforts are completely independent of the efforts that we are putting forth here locally to update this basin. There is some permitting work that we need to do as part of that with the DNR, but again, the efforts and the changes that you'll see in the map over the next year or two are actually not part of this project at all. The map that I'm showing on the screen right now is the current FEMA flood map, and you can see in teal the 100-year event, and then in brown is the 500-year event, although actually on this slide there is no brown in this image. If we go to the next image, this is the map that FEMA is anticipating being published in the coming months or perhaps coming years. You can tell that the 500-year event has been much better defined in the new map, and the 100-year event has also changed as well. Again, the changes that you see here are not directly connected to the Detention Basin project. They're not as a result of the Detention Basin project. They're independently being determined by modeling outside of the work that is being done here. I'll just point out that this here shows the changes to the floodplain as a result of that remapping effort by FEMA and DNR. I'll let you ponder on this for a moment, but basically the yellow area is the increase in the 100-year floodplain. The purple is the decrease in the 100-year floodplain. And then the hatches show the increase and decrease in the 500-year floodplain. That is basically a difference between this map here, which is what's currently in place, and this map here, which is the new map that FEMA is determining. We can answer more questions about that if you would like. Again, email us with the email addresses on the last slide. So the overall plan for the detention basin itself looks a little bit like this. You can see E Avenue to the north and D Avenue just to the east there, with the streets of 31st, 30th, and 29th to the south. There are a number of sort of swales, if you will, through here. Those swales have some deeper pools in them, and that is part of the water quality improvements that we are also suggesting here. But the main channel that you can see through the middle of the basin will actually remain unchanged. So the main project components will go through here. We're expanding the detention basin primarily, and that will involve the removal of a significant amount of soil from the basin. I'll show you a diagram of that in a moment. It will also involve an adjustment to the weir that you'll see underneath the pedestrian bridge at the east side of the site. And again, we'll highlight that in just a moment. We also have a sanitary sewer upgrade, a water main loop that we're putting in, some hammerhead turnarounds, and again, we'll point those out in a moment. We're doing some trail grading and the ecological uplift and wetland plantings. So the areas that you see here on the screen are the areas where we will be removing significant amount of soil to create additional capacity in the detention basin itself. The detention basin does function as a basin today, but we are looking to remove a significant amount of material in order to provide extra storage for stormwater as storms come through. It's worth mentioning that this gives flood risk reduction mostly in what we call high frequency storms. That means the storms that you see kind of once a year, once every couple of years, that kind of thing. It's much more effective than it will be in the really large storm, the storm that we would perhaps call the 100-year event or the 1% chance event. So this will hopefully help with flooding issues that we see once every few years in the local neighborhood. The second thing that we're doing as part of this project is a sanitary sewer upgrade. The pipe that's in the ground right now is a little bit undersized, and so we're going to increase the size of that to a fairly large pipe, a 24-inch pipe. The reason we do that is just to make sure that there's no flow that is getting inhibited upstream, and so that will help with the overall system capacity. Next, we're going to loop the water main. This is a general practice that is done in water main systems around the country, and the reason for looping is just to help with resilience. If you have to shut down one leg of a water main, then you can actually get water from the other end, if you will. So we like to loop the water main wherever we can to help with that. The hammerheads that you see here are ways in which we can improve the end of each of these streets. These hammerheads are designed for garbage trucks to be able to turn around at the end of the street. If you live on one of those streets, I'm sure you're aware that the large trucks that come through here need to back up or back down the street instead of turning around at the end. So we're trying to solve that problem here with these hammerheads. Those hammerheads will also include storm sewer and curb and gutter. And then the brown line that you see there is the trail grade. The trail won't be actually going in as part of this project, but we will be preparing for it with a grade so that it can be installed right on top of that grade in a future project. Next, we wanted to point out that at some point in the future, as part of a separate project, the future trail bridge will go in the same spot here as the existing. The existing, if you're aware, is a pedestrian bridge, but that has it's fairly skinny, and so it's hard to pass even two pedestrians. And so we, in making it a trail bridge, we are interested in widening it up so that you can actually get two bikes pass very easily on that. Again, wanted to clarify that the future trail bridge will be part of a separate project, but we'll be preparing for that with this project right here. It's worth pointing out that the stormwater weir that you see underneath the bridge there will be removed and rebuilt as a part of the optimization of the stormwater on this project. And then the other thing that we wanted to mention is what we call ecological uplift and wetland plantings. As you would be aware right now, the basin is a mowed area and is fairly flat. What we'll see in here is what we call, again, ecological uplift, and we're going to create these little swales where we'll actually divert water out of the main channel during what we call low flow events. And that water then will get the benefit of going through wetland plantings and being able to sit in deep pools so that it can settle out sediment and other contaminants to help water quality. Just to give an idea of what those wetland plantings might look like, this is a diagram. But you can see that plants will do well actually at the water's edge as well as in the water itself. And some pictures of what those plants might look like. You may have seen these in various wetlands around the county or in other places. And so this is kind of the feel of what the basin will ultimately look like. A little bit different to what it looks like today. So the funding for the project is highly dependent on FEMA. We also have a small grant that we're working on with the state of Iowa through the Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship. That is also pending. The FEMA grant really is going to fund the lion's share of this project. And we are working with them diligently to make sure that it does get funding. It has been funded at what we call a phase 1 level to this point. And so as we continue to work on the design and provide updates, it's our hope that we will see full funding of the project in the next few months here. So we're calling it a tentative construction schedule. We're at about a 90% design progress milestone at this point. Based on that and based on what we anticipate for the funding, we would like to start the project in the fall of 2023 and about a year later in the fall of 2024 with all the improvements in place. However, the plantings could be installed in early 2025. Again, the project is very dependent on FEMA HMGP grant funding, and so we're hopeful to see that come to fruition. So just in general, the neighborhood benefits of the project, as we mentioned, there's flood mitigation. We will see localized flood reduction, which is a good thing. I know the neighborhood, especially downstream of this basin, has experienced some fairly significant flooding events, and so we're looking to mitigate that. We are looking to improve the water quality as the stormwater comes through the basin. We're also, with the wetland plantings and the swales and deep pools, we're looking to create a little bit more of an attractive pedestrian amenity in the area and enhance the natural habitat and bring more natural species to the area. We are going to improve the water main and sanitary sewer. We're going to provide those hammerhead turnarounds for residents and fire trucks and garbage trucks and the like, and then prepare for the Cherokee Trail, which again will be as part of a future project. Finally, we did want to point out that independent of the basin project, the city is also working on a maintenance project in this area, which is just downstream of the basin, just to the south of E Avenue here. There is a project in the works to remove a significant amount of sediment in the area and to clean that up. The project will hopefully improve flood flows in the area as well. Finally, as I mentioned earlier, questions and comments are welcome, and we would ask that you email Matthew Sauer at the City of Cedar Rapids, who's the city's project manager, or myself here at HR Green at one of the emails that you see there on the slide. We also have phone numbers if you'd like to call and leave your comments and questions that way. We're happy to assist. Thank you for your time.